we had just opened. I mean, we were like 6 months old. And we had this, we didn't know, we were at the office. Somebody called us and said, hey, you were on the news at 5 o'clock. And we were like, what? Really, there were two main incidents. One incident was after we left the firm we were at, one of the attorneys at that firm became White House counsel to Jimmy Carter and got investigated. And they found out that he had been dealing with a sort of a racketeer here in Atlanta. That racketeer had used so we used to form corporations and put them on the shelf. Because in those days, you had to go down and get an order signed by a judge to form a corporation. So you couldn't do it whenever you were ready. You had to do it when the judge was ready. So when this occurred, we had left corporations that had our names on it in the old firm. Our former partner, White House counsel, had selected one of those corporations for his allegedly racketeering client. And so when it broke on the news that he had represented this fellow, on the screen was this corporate charter that had all three of our names on it. So we had just opened. I mean, we were like 6 months old. And we had this, we didn't know, we were at the office. Somebody called us and said, hey, you were on the news at 5 o'clock. And we were like, what? So there was no video, there was no YouTube where we could play it back. We went down the radio to the TV station. And I don't know if you're familiar with a guy named Richard Belcher, but Richard Belcher was an investigative reporter for WSB for many, many years. We went and sat with Richard, explained to him what was going on, and he totally changed the story to take us out of it. Because interestingly, at the firm, I had written a memo at the direction of Elliott on what constituted money laundering, which I had no idea why I was writing it, but I was writing it because he presented at a partners meeting and said, we shouldn't be representing this guy. So that was one real, threat to the firm. I just bought a new house, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I'm gonna have my tarnished reputation, and I got to go try to find another job because all our clients are going to abandon us. But fortunately, Richard Belcher was a man of honor, and he accepted our explanation and removed us from the story. And the story never went anywhere. It was a lot of flesh, but not a lot of substance. Our other one was, one day I'm sitting in my office, and the CFO of our largest client, whose offices we were subleasing space in, sharing copiers with, sharing phone systems with, walks into my office right before Thanksgiving, and he plops on my desk an envelope, and he says, open that. And I open it, and it's full of drugs with a letter to one of their employees in Texas saying, have a good holiday. It had gotten intercepted in their mailroom somehow. And he said, so what do we do now? So I called a guy named Mark Kadish, who was a criminal law professor down at Georgia State. At that time, he was a practicing criminal lawyer. And he said, look, you got to turn him in. You got to turn this in. The company can't protect this guy. The company will be subject to all kinds of problems if this ever comes. What if you fire him 3 years from now and he goes back and says, you covered this up? So we went to the CEO of the firm, said, we need to work this out. He believes he can get the guy a plea deal and probation, first-time offender, all of that. And the CEO says, I'm in favor. The CFO says, if you do this, I'll see that you get fired. And so we said, we don't have a choice. We lose our license if we don't do this. So we did it. We got the guy probation. Everything worked out just like Mark Kadish said it would work out. And 6 months later, we got fired. So we now had lost our biggest client. We lost our lease in our office space. We lost our phone system, our copiers, because they were providing us all of that. And we moved across the street to Tower Place, which was a brand new building and maybe at that time the place to be, and borrowed money and decorated a lavish office to show everybody how great we were doing when we didn't know how we were going to pay the bills. And so, that was, both of those felt like existential threats.
Wow.
Fortunately, those are all so far in the past that nobody here has any idea that we ever went through that. But it was a character building. I once was asked to speak about this situation to an ethics class at Emory Law School because one of my professors there, who became my client, I told him the story. And so he said, I want you to come talk to the kids about ethics. And it really was a classic, your economic well-being versus your ethical responsibilities under the Georgia ethical responsibilities provisions. And so, we made the choice. We thought the only choice. We didn't think there was another choice. But apparently not everybody makes that choice. And it was quite an adventure and quite scary.
Thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of the CPMT podcast. If you enjoyed this content, feel free to like, subscribe, and follow us on LinkedIn.